Hi, and welcome to the Masterclass on how to transform your association with a learning and talent ecosystem. In this Masterclass today, we're going to look at the challenges associations are facing globally and also how we can bridge that skills gap, how associations can play a bigger role in supporting their members individually, as well as companies and corporates. And then finally, looking at sustainable growth. What new routes for revenue channels can an association, small, medium, or large, tap into in this new skills first world? Welcome to the masterclass on the three biggest challenges for associations. We're going to deep dive into some challenges that you might be able to relate to around members, content creation for learning outcomes, as well as being able to support companies in the skills gaps they face in this world today. We're going to explain in detail what is a learning and talent ecosystem and how is that different to operating in the past where an association provided education and certification, but not much more beyond that. And we're going to talk about actionable strategies for 2025. What can you put in place for your association that helps bridge the skills gap and drives member growth? A little bit about myself. My name is Vanessa Wainwright, and for the last 20 years, I've worked in skills on every side of the triangle, from working with individuals on developing and learning programs, as well as companies from startup right to Fortune 1000 companies on their talent acquisition strategy. And more recently with government around policies for skills first, understanding how can we future-proof the needs of industry and start bridging that gap that has been growing and widening. I'm joined today by Dr. Elisa Boriston Barnes, who is coming from a highly educated background as an academic, but also as an entrepreneur. Elisa will be joining us today to give some insights in her specialty, which is AI around skills and understanding the power of AI and how it can really transform your association. She also is a trusted advisor for many academic institutions as well as industry leaders. So we're going to get really, really good insights on both sides of the education for the learner as well as for the companies. So, what are the top challenges for associations globally right now? Well, the reality is for many associations, reducing member numbers are experienced on the basis that there needs to be a greater value. In some cases, associations are looking at certification as a way of adding that value. So it becomes certified professional development, that's mandatory. But there are many other ways of actually attracting and retaining members. Low learning completion rate is a problem that's not just with associations, it's across the board. Statistically, 60% of people will complete an online course in general. But there are major brands that provide online education that have experienced 1 in 10 only completing. So we're going to talk today to understand about why is the dropout rate of courses so high? And in many cases as well, why is the take up of courses so low? And what are the needs of employees and members as we move forward into this skills first global economy? And then finally, the financial pressures really threatening sustainability. If we're reliant just on a one off educational or learning sale or member revenue, does that give us the solid foundation for the future? Or what else can we look at now with all of the innovation, the skills first drive that's happening around the world to position your association for success? So, what's the urgency about all of this? Like, why do we need to act now? Why do we need to look at your association and think, well, what else can we do? Well, the skills gap is widening, and it's estimated that tens of millions of positions will go unfilled by 2030 if we don't address this problem. Now, it's not necessarily an issue at higher education. There are separate challenges there about having graduates employment ready. But lifelong learning is now a skill that we constantly need to invest in. But for many people, they know they need to advance their skills, and companies know they have a skills gap, but they don't have the information around what is the skills data for the education they need to purchase in order to fill the gap, individually or as a business. And this is an opportunity that we're going to look at further. Employers are demanding authenticated skills. So, what do we mean by that? Well, up until this point in time, if your association does CPD, you might produce a certificate to say this is the qualification that someone has acquired on an annual or biannual basis. Companies are now looking for the actual skills to be authenticated, but that immediately creates a challenge around, as an association, how do you authenticate the skills connected to a certificate, and of which skills taxonomy or database should you use globally? And then finally, what are members expecting? Well, everyone now wants a personalized experience. Gone are the days where we can really serve up a Netflix solution to member benefits and educational benefits. People want that personalized journey. And if we don't serve that up, the reality is it's the low take-up rate and or a course is selected and low completion rate because it didn't meet the needs of the individual exactly. And the reality is the educational landscape, it's changing dramatically. So at this point, what I would like to do is hand over to Dr. Elisa, who will just give a little bit more insight as to what are the changes happening in learning and education.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yes, this is very important to understand all the context. So one of the major changes was the rise of online learning, which happened a few years ago and which has led to the proliferation of online courses and degree programs. And of course, a shift from the consideration of traditional higher education institutions as the only providers of degrees towards a wide choice of online platforms offering variety of programs, catering to diverse learning styles and more flexible to individual needs and schedules. So thinking about full-time workers, for example. The notion of education itself has seen a shift to the notion of learning, signaling a change from more formal and institutionalized courses to a more kind of fluid and a continuous process. So learning, in fact, refers to different options. It can take place in informal settings, in the workplace, and it can be provided by many different training institutions. There's a shift as well. There's been a shift towards a skills-based society. And this is a direct result of the fourth industrial revolution and the advent of AI with all the continuous changes that it brings and, to the society at large and the economy. This is in the way of, the way organizations work, employees' ability to adapt and respond to changes, which of course has brought education and learning back to the center stage. The concept of lifelong learning, which has become a necessity in a rapidly changing economy and needs to be embraced by individuals and catered for by education and training providers in collaboration with the industry and organizations in order, of course, to respond to the needs of the economy and individual organizations. In terms of AI and what kind of major changes it has brought to education and the economy. Of course, there is the importance of personalized learning. Advancements in data analytics and AI are enabling more personalized learning experiences with educators, being able to tailor content and assessment to individual learner needs, bringing better engagement and more success in terms of course completion as well. This concept now, it needs to be applied as well to employability, where AI and skills taxonomies needs to be built and updated in in real time based on the job market needs, and employed to offer learners a more personalized career planning. And we can use a specific tool for that, where we can advise on the skills needed for specific job roles and also on what is the best route to achieve that. And of course, graduates and students just out of university, to give them the best opportunities to compete in the job market based on objective and relevant skills that they gain through their learning. There's a connection between education providers and industry, and this connection needs to be strengthened further. Technological advancement requires innovation and adaptability of organizations, but also it requires education to be part of it. There is no innovation without education. So, we know that historically academia and education institutions and industry have been two separate entities, working in a quite disconnected way, where, for example, education institution would provide qualifications, and the industry would mainly consider that as a signal of learners' intellectual abilities, as they can learn, they can adapt, and much more. But they would always see the need to train graduates to do specific job roles. We can change that, and we can definitely improve that. There is need. In terms of global access to education, and there's this concept of global employability, which we need to embrace. And online platforms have broken, for example, geographical barriers. They have allowed learners from all over the world to access high quality education. A lot of education institutions in different countries have expanded their offer. They open branches around the world. They offer online courses. And this kind of, the result is a global talent, really, which is often lost to the job market because, of course, learners, they move, they lose their connection with the education institutions. So, just imagine a world like a global network where all learners and graduates can use a skills passport to connect with employers and to different organizations, and also have better opportunities in the job market globally. So, where education institutions also can grow partnerships with organizations and the industry, and providing talent with verifiables and future-ready skills. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And I think we tap on a really important point here of associations have an incredible opportunity, because the affinity and the loyalty that a member feels to their association brand, whether it be because that's where they get to network and connect with peers in industry or access learning, that's a unique position to be in an association. And for many, and a story I will talk about with an association we work with, up until before we started working with them, it was very much the education they provided was in silos. So there was the membership, and then the education they provided was available on the website. And there was email marketing campaigns to try and promote it. But it was very disparate information. From certification was separate to the website that hosted the learning, was separate to the members database, was separate to the networking events, was separate to the corporates. And really, by bringing everything together in a learning and talent ecosystem, you benefit from compounding effect of that energetic connection between the members and the companies. So Elisa very briefly touched on the innovation that is the Skills Passport and the unique position that an association has to really leverage that for the future. So let's deep dive a little bit more on a learning and talent ecosystem. If you're an association, and really this webinar today is relevant for associations that provide learning and education, or you intend to launch it this year. But in order to sell learning and education effectively, you need to understand the members, and whether that's an individual employee or a company, whether small, medium, or large, you need to understand their skills gaps, Now, here's the positive. Here's the market opportunity for using association. 90+% of businesses have skills shortages, but nearly the same number again, statistically, do not know what the skills gap is. And this is an incredibly valuable piece of information to a business to try and access. And so, what we will share now is through the association, this sort of information could be made available to the member companies and individuals in order to provide skills mapping, which is essentially the visualization of supply and demand. So the skill supply is coming from the courses that you currently provide your members and any real-time learning. Most associations don't track the real-time learning. They just track how many courses they've sold. And it's not giving them the intelligence that will really give the competitive edge. And for the demand side, that's coming from companies saying what they need. Now, again, if companies don't know, there is a unique way of accessing the skills data intelligence. And again, this will position your association as miles ahead of the competition to be able to help member companies with this information. Because the reality is, if we can help them become more competitive and bridge that skills gap as an association, we're going to be able to add more value, create new revenue streams, become more competitive, and really drive engagement. So, the AI's role for associations, if we take, for example, the skills passport, we can't activate a skills passport or personalized learning and development without ensuring the underlying information is correct. And in the world today, we have a situation where governments, as well as educational providers and companies, are creating their own skills databases. And so the first element is to really understand what is the skills taxonomy for your association and its members. So, say, for example, your association is in engineering. Have you got the latest information around the skills within engineering that's dynamically updating? And is that skills taxonomy connected to jobs and connected to your courses? Without that foundation underlying or underneath the skills passport, it will lead to mismatching or low take up rate of courses or high dropout rates. So, the first thing we look at is that piece. The next is analyzing the workforce trends to make sure that whatever education you're creating connects to the skills taxonomy, but also what industry is looking for. And then finally, how can we enhance the student or learner engagement through personalization? And what AI does is it can mine the skills data, anonymized, so it's GDPR compliant, and serve up personalized recommended learning. We've all experienced going online and being offered thousands of courses and knowing that you need to upskill. But imagine a world where you're told, based on where you would like to go in terms of a future position, what is your skills gap? And then what is the recommended learning by your association that will help them bridge that skills gap? The impact to someone's career path and the impact to a business, your member companies, would be tremendous. So, what are the current challenges for the association and what's the proposed solution? And really, the challenges are around member value. Gone are the days where just registration to an association and attending events, or maybe taking the certification, is enough. Because of the competition online, as Elisa had mentioned, around online education, we need to offer more as an association. And one of the key elements is being able to not just certify, but authenticate the skills and enable someone to see what skills they have that are transferable. This is a challenge for people, members, that is going to become more apparent in these coming years. Because the reality is, as AI takes over more of the hard skills tasks, it's going to be understanding, well, of those hard skills, what can be transferred, upskilled, transferred, and of my human skills, what can I transfer to new pathways within the company I work with or new industries? And then the reality is, As costs rise for associations, it is imperative to stay ahead and identify new revenue streams. So the solution we're talking about today is a solution that you can create yourself, build yourself. There's so much open AI technology out there now. Or you can decide on a provider like ourselves at Abodu because you want to focus on being an association, delivering education, and you want someone to support the skills, innovation, technology to enable your strategy. And we're going to talk about how can you accredit the skills, ensure the skills are verified, and have your members job ready and career ready for whatever path that they're on. So what is the Skills Passport? Well, the Skills Passport is a new way to marry the CV, certification, and career coaching, all in one simple app that can be on your phone or that you can access online. The Skills Passport is one where it's your brand on the front, your association's brand, and it enables an individual to have their skills tracked. So, on the creation of a Skills Passport, which takes just minutes through the information from the CV auto creating, and from there, recommendations because it is matching against, if you remember that skills taxonomy I mentioned about. So, going back to that example of we're in engineering, having an engineering skills taxonomy that represents the hard human skills and transferable skills within engineering. Now my passport is telling me what do I have today in terms of skills, which I can sign off on. And this is me authenticating my own skills to this point in time because that's the way it has been in the world. We've all sort of volunteered what we think our skills are. But from this point onwards through the skills passport, your association has the ability to actually authenticate those skills and verify them. And think about the value of that. Think about the value of an internal recruitment process where the CEO needs to interview one of the members of your association and they're able to walk in with a QR code and quickly demonstrate all of the authenticated skills by your association because they took certification with yourself. AI-driven recommendations is where we start to really use this global skills taxonomy called Skills Bridge AI to power career pathways for people. Sadly, 70% of people are actually unhappy in what they do. But we have the ability to help them bridge that skills gap. And that might mean them not leaving their company because they've been able to tap into the gap, why they're not aligned to the right role, find it within their company, and take the learning with you to bridge that gap. Again, imagine the value you as an association are offering, not that individual, not just the individual member, but the company. You've saved them thousands and thousands in terms of losing someone because they couldn't identify that gap. And then the seamless accreditation. Currently, when you think again about how are we showing an employer internally or externally our certification, it tends to be just the details are on a CV. And we're leaving a lot of work to the company to go and try and validate that and check. But within the passport, it's auto accreditation. There's an API connection between your educational courses and your skills passport. So the power of that is tremendous. The most valuable part of the skills passport platform is the skills data. So the skills data for many associations trying to forecast future skills needs. Say, for example, you're a financial association, and once a year you conduct a survey, you send it out to all the companies, you try and understand, well, what skills do they need? But again, the challenge is every company describes skills in different ways. And there is an element of bias in that data that comes back and it can be inconsistent. And then that's an annual report, which as soon as that report is created, the data is no longer valid, especially today with AI and how fast the world is evolving. There are skills going to be needed in 2 years' time that currently don't exist. So as an association, how do you get ahead of that curve? Well, activating the Skills Passport platform puts you in a unique position because now you can visualize on a global map anonymized information, But this information is the supply and demand of skills in real time within finance. How valuable would that be to key stakeholders in companies, in positions, in government, for accessing future funding, for educational course creation, for running events? Now you are actually mining your own skills data. So rather than having members all around the world and you get maybe data updated once a year, you have real-time information coming in and it's sitting on your solution. So this is how we can get future proof ready for learning, because you will be ahead of any competitor in terms of knowing what your member companies need. But what does it mean in revenue terms? What does it mean for the financial sustainability for your association? Well, if you think about how you currently sell education to your members, I'm sure you're like many, like the association we started to work with, who had all of their education listed online and then spent lots of money trying to market to the members through email marketing, Facebook ads, online ads, to drive them to the page. And then the intention being a percentage would try and purchase the education. But lifelong learning provided through a skills passport in your branded association, identifying the individual personal skill gap and serving up recommended learning, as well as certifying not just the course, but all of the skills going to be acquired, is hugely valuable. And this is where your marketing spend can reduce and your learning revenue can increase. And in some cases, we're seeing associations that are launching now subscription models through their portal, in this case, the Skills Passport. They're providing ongoing learning for individuals to access anytime, anywhere on the move. But there is a second revenue stream. For some associations, there is an opportunity to launch a talent marketplace, a private LinkedIn as such, where members can connect with members if they're actively looking for a new position. Again, you're in a unique position. If you're an association focused on green skills, sustainability courses, this is hugely valuable in the marketplace. There is a global shortage of people with this skill set. So as they acquire these skills, there is value in that. Not only have you been able to achieve the learning revenue, but if that person then completes the course with your association and then goes on to a job board or goes to a recruitment agency, you have lost two things. One, the ability to actually make additional revenue through having a talent marketplace. But two, the data points that can be achieved through the skills passport and the match happening within your environment. Because as that person starts their new position, more skills data is feeding into your ecosystem. So here we have seen the association I mentioned at the very beginning, who had all of the information separate from the education. They had no recruitment or talent marketplace. Now they have launched the lifelong learning subscription, as well as a subscription for companies who pay a few thousand a year to be featured on their association marketplace. And they're able to charge per hire or successful placement that happens as a result of a connection. One of the key elements that we have factored into the Skills Passport is member protection around reducing bias, but also GDPR. So when a skills match happens with the passport and an employer partner, the member is anonymized. It truly is a skills first match based on what skills they've acquired from your association. And then after that, when the member goes into process, all of the information is revealed. And this, for an association that's passionate about diversity and inclusion and getting greater diversity right up to C-suite, this is a game changer to be able to offer your member companies. So let's talk about a real world success story. EIT Digital, the European Institute and one of the largest digital skilled educators in Europe, had courses available both directly and through some educational partners. And really, they wanted to be able to build financial sustainability and leverage AI to be able to power greater learning outcomes as well as scaling members. So the solution implemented was the Skills Passport platform, branded as D Academy, which is the EIT digital brand they created specifically for their platform. So Abodu and our team, we power the skills innovation. We help them establish the global skills taxonomy for digital. We ensure that that is updated monthly. So all of the skills listed are the most relevant. And the Skills Passport enables the learners to access the courses available. The ecosystem that they're scaling to is 50,000 members, Skills Passport holders, 500 courses, and 300 companies. Even though there are 500 courses available through the D Academy, an individual member will only ever see the courses that are relevant to their career pathway, whatever their aspiration or goals are, or whatever skills gap they want to close. And this is how you drive learning outcome, learning completion rates, and create new revenue streams. So, what are the pillars of success? If you are going to build your own learning and talent ecosystem, going back to again this taxonomy, it is imperative that you have a skills first taxonomy that is relevant and dynamic. What do I mean by dynamic? That it stays updated, that you get the AI driven skills insights from that technology to tell you what skills gaps are existing in industry. So the courses that you create or resell are really relevant. And then finally, introduce a way of having continuous engagement. So if you're creating your own skills passport platform, ensure that you're able to have constant engagement, add lots of value, as well as lifelong learning. If you are ready to transform your association, we want to offer two things today. So the first is a 4-week course that we have developed to help associations that want to build their own platform. Perhaps you've already started, and for some associations, this is an endeavor because they have a development team, they have a data team, and they really want to try and create their own. Or if you're at the point of thinking you'd like to partner with a company like Abodu, but you really need to establish the strategy, because without a learning and talent marketplace strategy, it can go really wrong very early, and you can waste thousands, if not thousands, tens of thousands of euros. So we have developed a program that essentially helps leaders and associations establish that strategy. So in the first week, we focus on the skills foundation, really understanding the area that you are in and what are the challenges and how we can look at a learning and talent ecosystem that addresses all of the challenges, not just of the members, but also if you have corporate members. From there, we start to look at how to design future ready courses. So how we can use AI to create aligned programs, providing the skills and build out a skills taxonomy that's geo-based. So if you are just operating in one country or globally, making sure the skills taxonomy is relevant and transferable for members. In week 3, we start to talk about implementing. So if you're going to develop your own platform, what does that look like? How can you do skill certification? If you are connecting with European frameworks or global education certification, what can you do if you are building it yourself? And then finally, how can you activate and promote and market your new marketplace to members to drive that revenue and stakeholder engagement? We have spent years building this technology and millions of euros getting it to a point where it is plug and play. But at the very least, if you intend to build your own, leverage the learning pathway that we've had on what is important when building a transformational marketplace, a marketplace that is like your own mini LinkedIn, and ensuring that it's GDPR compliant and it's giving the greatest value to your members. This 4-week course will be starting in the coming months. And we will also be providing an AI skills advantage playbook. So not only will we give you the recordings, but we'll actually give you the strategy documentation to be able to build it for your own association. If you want more information on it, just get in touch at info@abodi.com. And if from today you're thinking, actually, let's do this, whether it's you have a budget and you want to do it straight away, you want to work with us to access funding to be able to launch this, or you just want to connect and see what does the skills platform look like live, you can get in contact with us again at info@abodi.com, and we will arrange a skills discovery meeting with no obligation. If you're not ready for that, or you just want to know more about global skills and how that can really transform your association, you can also sign up to our Global Skills newsletter, which is available on LinkedIn. And that's where we share weekly insights and trends and funding information. So thank you very much for attending today. It has been a pleasure to present with Dr. Lisa and I, and we look forward to wishing you the very best success for the future. And if you do want our support, we look forward to supporting you in that journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.